This winter, I developed a seed starting system that I have been following for the past 8 weeks, and the question is whether or not I will continue following it. Because this is my first official year having a microflower farm, and I also want to grow vegetables for myself to eat, and if I do not stay on track, I will not have flowers and I will not have food, and that would be sad. But hopefully that won't happen. So I'm going to take you back over the last 8 weeks and show you whether or not I've actually stayed on track and tell you the story of why and how I developed this system and whether or not I'm going to continue this system for the next 48 weeks. So I just wrapped up week 1 of my seed starting, and I started a lot of seeds today, but they're all things that can handle the cold. We don't normally get a lot of cold. We don't normally get like extreme weather. So I'm not sure how they'll do in this space. Something happens. I don't know. If it gets too cold in here, I don't know what I will do, but I'm not going to worry about that. And hopefully I won't have to worry about that. But this system, 10 out of 10 today, I love it. I think I won't love it if I fall behind. But today, this was like minimal to no brain energy, and that is exactly what I'm going for. So hopefully over the next few weeks I stick to the program and I don't skip. Everything will be okay, and today I'm feeling good about it. So the entire system that I developed that I'm going to be following over the next few weeks actually revolves around one singular document that's copy and pasted over the next 52 weeks. And the way that I developed this system is by reflecting over my past year. Last year, I dipped my toes into flower farming for the first time to see whether or not I actually liked it, and I did. So this is my first official year, and one of the biggest takeaways from last year that helped me develop what I want my garden to be this year is data. Because I love numbers. Numbers can tell you things. They whisper to you. They tell you secrets that your brain can't comprehend or remember because there's too many things going on in your brain. But the numbers, they tell you things. And it was all this data and information that is really helping me plan my garden this year. Whether you're growing in your backyard or in pots in a little apartment balcony or on acres of land, tracking what works in your garden and really importantly what doesn't work is also helpful. Like last year I started nasturtiums in February, and that was actually perfect. Even though it seems kind of early, it wasn't. It was perfect. Also, I grew celery last year. It looked great. I harvested it. I was like, proud mom. And then I got it in the house and I was like, I just remembered that I don't like celery. Never have. Third, I grew lettuce. I've never liked lettuce. I hate salads, but I grew it anyways because it turns out I do love lettuce. I love lettuce. I love salads, but only when I'm growing it myself, I guess. So I am growing a lot more lettuce this year because what can I say? I'm a salad girl. I'm a salad girl now. Salad Girls 2026. Salad Girl Summer, maybe. I don't know if that'll catch on, but it was all of this feedback and all of this data that is helping me plan my garden for 2026. And it was really important that I tracked it because my brain would not have remembered all of this stuff. So I compiled everything that I got from last year, and I also reflected on what I wanted my goals to be this year based on that and also what I learned. So on week 2, I did not start any seeds. I skipped a week. But by week 3, I doubled up and I was all caught up again. But I wouldn't even be 3 weeks in without having an actual plan. So let's go back a few weeks when I was trying to make my crop plan. So while I was deep in the trenches of planning my garden, notebooks, papers, seed packets everywhere, it was the classic overwhelm of like, what do I do? Where do I start? Oh my gosh, I have all these ideas and goals and this vision for my garden, and it's going to be perfect and everything's going to look great and it's going to be on Pinterest and everyone's going to love it. I forgot that I didn't like celery and I almost started some celery seeds, but I didn't. So I decided to go for a walk. Because walking is good. It clears my head. I've been walking more and more, which is really great. I've been trying to get 10,000 steps a day and failing, but sometimes succeeding. So as I was on my walk, I like to listen to podcasts, and I was listening to a flower farming podcast because even though I was trying to take a break, you can still learn something. You can still have a productive break. And that is America. But anyways, on my walk, I was listening to this episode and it was about flower farming and how once businesses grow, they end up hiring people and there's issues with hiring because you're used to doing one thing one way and then all of a sudden you have to teach someone how to do something and it's really difficult. And I thought, I don't want to hire anyone. This is my garden and I don't want anyone coming into my greenhouse because I have piles of chaos everywhere. But why wouldn't I make a system that makes my life easier? I'm overwhelmed with all my seeds and my papers. Why wouldn't I make a system for myself? This is so dumb. I ended up developing 3 main garden goals for me, one for each of the 3 seasons that I kind of have in my garden based on what I learned last year. And I decided to put it all into one document and I created the master document. And then things started to go wrong. I was a couple weeks into testing out whether or not this document and the system were going to work for me for the next year or forever. And remember how I said this? We don't normally get a lot of cold. We don't normally get like extreme weather. If it gets too cold in here, I don't know what I will do, but I'm not going to worry about that. If I could tell her, wow, the weather just decided to not cooperate. And I had hundreds of seedlings in my greenhouse that would not survive the cold that was about to come. So I had to scramble. I made a heating bench. I brought a bunch of seedlings inside. Some of them were left out in the greenhouse and I just had to wait and see what would survive. Without lights in my house, what would survive in the greenhouse in the cold, and just did my best to keep everything alive. So I did end up skipping a week when this happened. Because I was just focused on like keeping everything alive. I felt like Lord Farquaad in the Dragon, like we're just trying to keep living here. But while we're stuck inside, let me explain how this document actually works. So I figured out that each seed tray that I normally use uses about 4 quarts of soil. And then I also went week by week and figured out what I wanted to start that week by variety. And I also added a category for why I'm starting that, because I feel like in the middle of May, I'm going to get a sheet and I'll be like, why am I starting this? And I won't remember, and then I won't start it. And then in July, I'll be like, wait, where is that thing I wanted to start? So I put a reason so that would help my brain explain why I'm starting certain things, because I do have multiple reasons why I'm starting things. Like I'm growing plants for a plant sale and my plant club this spring. I'm also growing plants to sell at the farmer's market. So just having a column to explain why I'm growing things has been helpful already. And that's basically the document. It's pretty simple, it's pretty easy, and I have one for every week of the year, which is insane. There are some that aren't filled out and some that are, but the cool part about having a document that I can constantly add to and update is that I don't have to think of everything all at once. I just have to think about what I want for the next few weeks. Eventually, the snow melted and I could finally get back out into my greenhouse. A lot of the things that I was sheltering inside survived, and of the things that I put outside, they also survived, but some of the things that I was waiting to germinate obviously didn't germinate in like 18 degrees Fahrenheit, so some of them have come inside. I've done a game of Tetris, but we are officially just over halfway through the seed starting, so it's time for week 5 and 6. This is my first official session of February, and we are about to get into the thick of things. Like, it's almost tomato time in just a few weeks, which is pretty exciting. So far, having this little system has worked amazing. Like today, I know I'm behind by a week, so I'm behind by a week, and I know that, but it doesn't feel like this overwhelming task. And I also know exactly what I'm missing. Like, I knew I was missing cilantro and rosemary. I didn't have to put much brain thought into this, you know? Like, the brain energy was minimum. I also want to grow more lettuce. So I got mesclun. It's a mix. We've got rocket, which I think is also arugula. Spinach, and then mustard, which I actually want to grow this for the seeds. So I'm gonna get started. And the first thing is labels. This is the system that if I were to hire someone or have to teach someone else, which I guess I'm kind of teaching you now, even though, you know, I think it's adaptable and you can change it however you like. This is my system. Once the boss version of myself has done all the big brain thinking of crop planning, how many things I want to start where, and blah, 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 blah. Everything gets put into my 52-page document, 1 page for each week of the year. Then I printed out the first 4 weeks. Each document went with a baggie, all the seeds that I'm starting for that week, and the seed labels to go for however many trays I want to start. Then I calculated all the trays and all the soil that I need for those 4 weeks, and week by week, I took out each bag and started those seeds. The trick is that once I was done with a week, I came back inside, went back to my document, printed out the 5th week, or whatever the following week is after I would run out of bags, and fill it up. Fill it with the seeds, fill it with the labels, make sure I had the soil and the trays, and that way I can leapfrog my way through the year, put all my seeds back in the chaos pile, ready to go for when I want to start them again. Now that I've got a system in place, all I have to do is follow it. And luckily, there's only a few more weeks until I'm going to do a little review of what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and whether or not I'm going to keep doing it for the rest of the year. But I thought it would also be helpful to show you my seed starting setup. I basically have an indoor setup and an outdoor setup. And I'm very DIY, very budget friendly. I'm very much like use what you have until it breaks and then use it some more and then maybe go buy something new. So I have seed trays that I bought last year. I'm going to use them till they crumble. And that's what I use to start my seed trays. But you don't need fancy seed starting supplies. You could get stuff at the Dollar Tree. I've used stuff from my home, recycled containers. And it doesn't have to look pretty. Hot take, I think it actually shouldn't look pretty because it's seed starting and it's gardening. And life is not Instagram and Pinterest, and Martha Stewart can go suck it. Sorry, Martha. But like seed starting does not have to be pretty and aesthetic. It never looks like that for me. So yeah, I'm going to show you the real honest truth of what things look like. One of the biggest purchases for my seed starting that I have invested in is shop lights. So if you're growing inside, these shop lights from like a local hardware store, 10 out of 10 would recommend. They are a little pricey, but if you're into seed starting and you think you're going to want to expand your seed starting, what's it called? I want like a big fancy word, but I can't think of one. If you want to expand your seed starting, this is kind of the go-to way. You don't need fancy grow lights. These work just as well. And you can fit a lot under some of these grow lights. So if you're growing inside, that's what I would recommend. But you can also do things like the winter sowing method. You can just wait until it's warm. Like you could just be patient and be a normal, sane person, unlike me, because I'm a little crazy. If you didn't know this, sometimes I forget this, but like plants grow on their own outside. That's why that's how nature works. So most plants you could just start from seed outside. You could just put them in the dirt and they'll grow. So you don't have to do anything complicated. It doesn't need to be anything out of this world. I am growing a lot of seeds this year because it's my job, it's my business, and I love growing plants. It's like my little hobby, but now it's my business, so I'm trying to make it my business and also keep it my hobby, and that's a whole nother conversation. But the point is, I'm growing a lot of seeds. You don't have to, and it doesn't have to be complicated. It is officially week 7 into testing out this new system, and I can just say that if I did not have this system, I would not be here starting seeds today, and I'm really glad I'm here starting seeds today. My brain is fried, and if I had to put one little calorie of thought into this, it just wouldn't happen. As you can see, I have these little baggies for every week, and it has everything I need for that week, and it has been... No. When you can smell it, that's how you know it's working. There's definitely flaws in the system. It's not perfect, and I will talk about that. But today I'm glad for this system because it is making me just, it's making seed starting chill. It's making it, I don't even have to think about it. I have a bunch of soil. I've got the trays. I've got the seeds. I've got a system and a document. And I'm just going to put on my broken ass headphones and have a time. So I'm going to start these seeds and then I'll be done with my day. I think it'll take like 30 minutes, which would be awesome. Yeah, that would be great. So I've officially been following this system for like almost 8 weeks now, which is kind of crazy. How are we almost 8 weeks into the year? Is that allowed? Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh my God. 6, 7. Shout out to the kiddos, I guess. The biggest thing for me is that gardening is so easy. First of all, let's talk about social media. Let's talk about the internet for a minute. AI, forget about it. Everything's scary. I'm overwhelmed. This is scary. But real life is not like social media, and it's really easy to feel behind. It's really easy to feel like you've missed your opportunity. Oh my gosh, I didn't start my tomatoes in February. Now I'm not going to have tomatoes. No, you can start them in July. Depends on where you live. If you live in Australia, sorry, that you cannot start tomatoes in July. Maybe you can. I don't know. I don't live there. I live in America. I live in Zone 7B in Virginia. I can start tomatoes in July and have them by the end of the year. People grow tomatoes in Alaska. So this is more of a lesson to myself, a reminder to myself to not feel like I'm behind, because the only person making me feel behind is me. And the only reason I feel behind and I'm making myself feel behind is because I'm comparing myself to others. And that's just not a good recipe for a healthy system. It's going to make me need to go for another walk. First of all, you're not behind. You're right on track for whatever your growing year is going to be. So the $1 million question, whether or not I'm going to keep following this system and whether or not I recommend it, yes, 10 out of 10. If you're someone who's chaotic and your brain is all over the place, taking like a day or two to just put all the information into one document and creating a system, beautiful. Caring for all these seedlings is a lot of work. So that's my next challenge, is caring for everything and making sure I even have room for everything here. But yeah, so far so good. I am pleased with this system. I would recommend it, and I will be continuing to follow it for the weeks to come. Having this system in place has made me feel so much less overwhelmed than in the past, because seed starting was this task. I had to go through and go, okay, what am I growing this year? Why am I growing it this year? Where am I going to put the seeds? Oh, I don't have enough soil. I need to go buy. It was just this overwhelming process if I didn't stay on track. This system has made things so much easier for me. And even though I have skipped a few weeks, I just double up the next week, and it's okay. The plants are going to grow. It's only February for me. There's time. In my last video, I talked about my new seed starting method. That's why this document is 52 weeks, because there's always something I could be starting every week. Now, that's a lot. That's crazy, and it is overwhelming, so I probably won't start seeds every week. It's nice to have a break from the things that we love so that we miss them and we love them and we want to do them again. I have loved this seed starting system. If you try this out, let me know if you have any adjustments or changes. This is a living, breathing system. It's a document that's meant to grow and change with me, and it can be adapted. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you liked watching, and I will see you in the next one.